Right. Hello, everyone. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you all hear me? Testing, testing. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your responses. Yeah. So, guys, yeah, this is ADC631. Yeah. How is everything? And by the way, Selamat Hari Raya, yeah, to our Muslim friends. And we are now in the second week. I believe everyone should have already started your meeting with supervisor. Hopefully, yeah, right? And hope that you have all filled in the Google form that I shared in the WhatsApp group, right? Any questions? Any questions in relates to this 631's process and administrative related, thingy? Are you all clear with the entire 631's process? Yeah, there is a question. Just a minute. Let me open the chat box. Yong Kang, yeah, Yong Kang, I noted your response. Yeah. If you have filled in, then supposedly I should have received lah. Right. Thank you. Yeah. But I noticed that there are still quite a numbers of our friends here yet to fill in the Google form. Right. So try to complete. This Google form latest by this coming Friday. Right. Any questions? Are you all clear with all the necessary task submissions related to this 631? And by the way, I have already uploaded the recording link on Elon, right? I think Nandini, I yet to locate your response. Belum kan? Not yet, right?
Sorry, yes, we're not yet. Still waiting for lecturer's response.
Right, thank you. Yeah. So guys, any questions before we discuss further? No questions? All right, no question, then I assume all good, huh? Then let's continue from where we left off last week. You all can see my slide, right? I am sharing lesson 1, identifying and defining the problem statement. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Jaya, is it? Jaya, you want to ask questions? Please go ahead.
No. I was about to say yes. You can see your slide.
All right. Thank you. I think I need to ensure that my speaker is loud enough. Okay. Okay. My line is okay, right? You all can hear me loud and clear, right? Audible, yeah? Yeah, just to confirm and reconfirm it, right? And by the way, guys, you all can stop me anytime you all need to ask questions or to clarify anything, yeah? All right, so let's continue. Okay. Okay, after finding your topic, meaning to say you have decided your direction, then we need to identify what is your problem statement or the so-called research problem, right? And this is also the most important, I would say, component in your chapter 1, right? Because without a solid problem, it doesn't justify starting any research. Because normally your examiner will start looking at your title and then cross-check with your subsection 1.3. 1.3 is normally your problem statement, right? To ensure that there is something worth researching. So the terms that normally we use is problematizations, meaning to say to ensure there is an issues that you would like to highlight. Normally, the issues that we identify is empirical issues, right? So what is a problem statement? I believe you all can get all the important information from the slides. So I hope you already go through the slide, right? So in short, this problem statement is basically referring to your DV. But I think we all need to understand that writing a thesis, right? Writing a thesis and writing a paper, it may have some differences, because sometimes, right, when you read those journal articles, those journal papers, you notice that they don't start discussing their dependent variable. They start with IV. I mean, it is okay, if there is a paper. But for our case, right, we are writing a thesis-like kind of a chapter. So, we should write our problem statement using or referring to our dependent variable, because this problem statement, right, this problem statement is basically to showcase that there is an area of concerns that we identify, we take note, and we want to solve through our research. So that's why normally DV is the problem that we identify, and I think I mentioned this before, right? Those are IVs, those are independent variables. It can be many, basically your proposed solutions, right? So these DV, right, need to be, I would say, focused and specific, right? As you can see from the slide here, right? And of course, it should be well defined. So I think last week I also, I'm not sure whether did I mention this or not. Yeah, the best for a problem statement is 1.5 page, right? So if you notice that some thesis or those proposal shared by your seniors is very lengthy, like 5 to 10 pages, then after reading the 5 to 10 pages, I'm not sure whether can you clearly identify the single issues or the single problem that the author would like you as an audience to notice or not. Yeah, so that's why it is very important for us to set our direction at the very first place. Okay, and maybe some of you may be interested to ask, how can we identify the problem, right? So normally you can identify the problem after you go through a thorough literature review. So that's why after completing this problem statement, right, later we shall discuss your literature review. Okay, so I believe you already downloaded and go through the slides. Okay, just now I also mentioned determining the research directions. Okay, maybe just give a simple problem statement. Okay, so you can quote saying that despite government's effort, sustainability performance among business entity is still relatively low. So you can see that on one hand and on the other hand. So as in the audience, right, they can clearly see that there is a gap that they pick up, and that is an issues that are worth studying, right? Okay. Okay. Any question? Supposedly no, because this is very straightforward. Let's continue. Okay. So from your 1.5 page problem statement, right? There are 3 elements that is important for you to incorporate in your write-up, which is the problem itself, like just now what I mentioned, right? Despite government's effort and blah, 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 that is basically the problem itself. And then the method of solving. So basically you are quoting saying that based on whatever theory and based on survey questionnaire on like maybe your context, which is the small medium enterprise or maybe any listed company, right? Through some quantitative survey, you are going to locate whatever problem and what is your proposed solution, as in you highlight, what are your IVs, your independent variables. And then of course, just now I also covered the scope. The scope are basically like whether you are researching the SME or maybe large company or listed company. So these are all the essential components that you should highlight in your problem statement, yeah, within the 1.5 page. Okay, although I suggest 1.5 page, but it is pretty much depends on your supervisor's suggestions. If let's say your supervisor is happy with your 3 pages kind of problem statement, then just go ahead, right? Okay, so what can be a problem area? I believe you can take a look, right? From the slide, I suggested 4, but normally for our 631's perspective, we just are focusing on the first 2, right? Like this one, existing issue an organization need to address, as in maybe like high turnover, or maybe employee morale, or maybe the employee is not happy with the whether they can go for work-life balance, something related, yeah. And then area a person want to improve, maybe low sales. I mean, maybe adoptions of certain technology is not really encouraging, not popular. So these are the 2 common area that your peers or maybe your seniors, yeah, normally look into, right? Then the remaining 2, which is theoretical or conceptual issues that need to be studied. Normally, we don't do this because this is pretty much a more philosophical related argument, yeah. So it is best that we leave it to those PhD research. Then the next one, or the last one, research questions a basic researcher want to answer empirically, meaning to say there is someone, right, that propose a concept, right, but the someone did not follow up with an empirical study. So maybe from there you want to pick up and you carry out an empirical study. But this is very risky, right? Because if we don't really perform or carry out a very thorough and comprehensive literature review, we never know that. Who knows, right? The researcher or other researcher have already carried out that study. Yeah. So we don't really recommend these 2 for our 631. Yeah. Normally, like what I suggested last week, right? Generally, we prefer meaning to say it is easy, convenient, and manageable to be completed within these 2 semesters. Yeah, I normally encourage you all to go for individual, yeah, consumer-based marketing research, whereby your peers, your friends, right, or your colleague can be your respondent, right? Okay. The rest, I believe you all can go through. Yeah. All right, and further information, potential research problem, right? You can, you can identify a gap, yeah? So I believe maybe your supervisor also asks you, yeah? You need to propose or suggest a study whereby you can fill in a gap, right? So what is a gap? So when people or when your supervisor tell you to identify a gap, meaning to say he or she is suggesting to you to identify an underexplored area, meaning to say, based on your comprehensive literature review, maybe you just just for an example, yeah, you read 10 papers and 9 papers focus on like stakeholder theory, right? Only 1 paper, yeah, that address that issue using institutional theory. Then you can identify that the application of institutional theory is relatively low and it is an unexplored area in your context. Then basically you are picking up an area, a gap that through after completing your research, you can claim that you add value and you add knowledge to that specific research domain. Yeah, you can do that. Okay, and then replicating, yeah, replicating, we don't really favor, yeah, because if you are replicating certain research, right, your examiner or maybe your reviewer will comment that your contribution is limited. Yeah, so we don't really replicate. But for our 631 per se, yeah, normally I will suggest you all to extend, yeah, integrate, yeah, so that you can, contribute. You can contribute more to the knowledge and then contribute to the literature. Yeah. Okay. A research is needed to improve the current practice. It can be like, from accounting's perspective, yeah, maybe during the last decades, right, certain practices are not so advanced, and now you are suggesting a more robust practice. For instance, yeah, like financial disclosure, then non-financial disclosure, then with time, right, it evolved to, especially for the non-financial disclosure, people talks about sustainability disclosure. Then now more and more company are disclosing the integrated reporting. So it is also a kind of research that you can pick up and try to execute. Yeah, right. Okay, then another one is a research study is needed to learn from people affected by the problem whose voices have not been heard. Okay, for example, okay, talking about technology, right? So normally, you all like to carry out this kind of research as in technology, and the simplest example will be the touch and go e-wallet adoption, right? So maybe, who knows, from your literature review, right? Majority, 95% targets those conventional consumer, meaning to say, including you and me, right? Just for example purpose, yeah, maybe you can target those elderly, right, to see whether based on that specific age group, yeah, whether do they, prefer using touch and go e-wallet or not. This is also a kind of a study that can add value. But of course, yeah, I believe carrying out a research focusing on touch and go e-wallet based on elderly's perspective, I think also not that new already, right? Should be already carried out by a lot of your seniors and also other researchers. Maybe not in Bangladesh or maybe not in certain contexts, but generally should have already been done, right? But anyway, these are all the potential research problems that you can identify, and you can claim that you are carrying out a research based on that specific angle, right? Extend past study. If let's say, if you notice a lot of different or various study, but with inconclusive finding, okay, then from there you can claim that you are contributing, right? Because to some extent you add value, yeah, to the literature. If let's say you notice any inconclusive finding, and this is also a very good justification when you are introducing a moderator, yeah, because we don't simply introduce any moderator in our model, right? I believe your supervisor also suggests, yeah, when you introduce a moderator, you must justify that there are some inconclusive findings, right, from the past study. That's why you are suggesting a moderator to see whether with this moderator, will it enhance or will it strengthen or will it, on the other hand, right, weaken the original relationship. Right? These are all the possible and also potential research problem. All right, then justification for the importance of the problem. Yeah, evidence from the literature. Of course, you cannot simply say that I'm from that specific industry, so I prefer to carry out that research. No, that is not the right way to defend, and that is not the right way to justify. Normally, your examiner, yeah, during the oral viva session, will start to have a conversation with you. Yeah, normally they will start like asking, where are you from? Are you from which industry? Then normally, if let's say you are from healthcare, then they will ask you, you carry out this healthcare related research. Is it because of you are from the industry? Normally, your senior will justify saying that, yes, I have, a passions on that because I'm a nurse or I'm a doctor, then blah, blah, blah. That is not a good justification. Huh? And in fact, that there is some minus mark when you say or you justify from that perspective. So whatever that we do, when we carry out a research, there must be a back or evidence from the literature, especially using your Google Scholar to find references, citations to support your claim, right? And then evidence from the society and business environment. It can be some reports from the World Bank, right? Or from our Department of Statistics Malaysia, or maybe from the news, right? Like Star Online, News Straits Time, yeah, or any official report from any authority, yeah, you can do that. So in short, justifications based on evidence is very important to support your claim. And then guys, I noticed that nowadays we can always leverage on AI, yeah, because AI is the tools that help us, right? But don't overdo it, because AI will give you false, references. And last semester, I managed to identify quite a numbers, using the AI generated reference, yeah, whereby, okay, I stop here. So in short, don't do that, don't do that. Do your proper literature search. All right, can, Okay, then the following slide are basically for your reading pleasure, right? Guidelines in creating good problem statement, relevance, timely, right? It should be important to both managerial and academic perspective. Academic perspective, as in your study, your findings, yeah, should add value to the literature. Okay. Then feasible, yeah, whether can you complete the research or not. So guys, for those that who have high ambitions to complete certain very complicated research, yeah, please think twice and see whether do you have sufficient knowledge or do you have sufficient knowledge, yeah, to carry out that. For instance, the statistical, that specific statistical test or not, especially in relates to econometrics, yeah. Please check with your supervisor, see whether if you are not really good in that, your supervisor can help or not, right? And of course, it must be interesting. Yeah? If not, then even if you as the researcher don't feel like it, right? How are you going to continue the research, yeah? Or completing the research within the 2 semesters? Okay. All right, and quantity and quality, yeah? These are the two different research philosophy, right? So generally, we understand that when we go for qualitative, is for us to explore things, right? So you ask, further, you probe further, yeah? So you ask the respondent why and how, okay? Whereas for quantitative, we explain the relationship between A and B. So normally you will see like questions like, or question read like this: does perceived usefulness lead to adoption of certain technology? Something like that. Or perceived ease of use or facilitating condition lead to higher extents of touch and go e-wallet adoption rate. Yeah. So quantitative study pretty much depends on theoretical argument and for the researcher to assess whether there is a relationship between A and B. That is quantitative. Okay. Okay, then I believe the next few slides give you examples. For you to do your own reading and examples of problem statement. You can pick up some that suits your research context and you do some modification. Yeah. You can go through the slides. Yeah. examples of a problem statement. Of course, yeah, this is a very short problem statements that you can expand. Yeah, you can make it richer. Yeah, as in provide more support from the literature. Okay, with that, that is basically covering your subsection 1.3. Then after you derive, you formulate your, or maybe a better word, I would say, after you identify your problem statement, right? Let's continue with research questions, right? Research questions are basically questions that you want an answer after you complete the research, okay? So as you can see and read from the slide, right? It derived from your problem statement. So by reading your problem statement, or alternatively, by reading your research questions, I believe your audience can roughly guess what is or how your model looks like. Okay, let me just pick up one, yeah? And normally I will make it simple, right? Like this one. Yeah? Number 7, yeah? Does better automation lead to greater asset investment? Right, guys, can you all tell me which is your DV? Which variable is your DV? I believe you can easily guess the DV, right? And also the IV from these research questions, right? So basically is this, yeah? The asset investment is an issue that you pick up. Then automation is basically your IV. Your IV is automation and your DB is this asset investment. Yeah? You want to solve this issue. Then you propose that these automations can address your asset investment issue. All right. Okay. Let me just give you another example. Yeah? Let's say you have a very simple study. Your DV is touch and go e-wallet, right? This is your DV. So you use a very simple model, which is called technology acceptance. Technology acceptance model, which is TAM, right? So you have perceived usefulness, right? And perceived ease of use, 2 IV, for instance, just for discussion purpose. So what is your research question? You only have 2 research questions if, let's say, based on this simple model, yeah? So your research question number 1 will be, does perceived usefulness lead to touch and go e-wallet adoption, right? And research questions number 2 will be, does perceived ease of use lead to touch and go e-wallet adoption? Is that clear? This is how you write your research question. It depends on how many relationships that you tackle in your model. If let's say you have 3 IV, then automatically we expect 3 research questions. Clear? Any questions? But I believe you can always get advice and look at the samples shared by your supervisor, right? So that you can, to some extent, you can mimic the way that your seniors or maybe your supervisor like how you write your research questions. Right, guys? Any questions? So far, so good, right? Thank you, Amir. And all that are responses. I responded. Yeah. Okay. After you formulated, or after you have written your research questions, the next, will be your research objective. But basically, they are all interrelated. So let me continue. Just now, referring to this model, right? Just now you heard how I write my research questions. Then when we want to pen down our research objective, right, it will be the same. It will become something like this: to examine the relationship between perceived usefulness and touch and go e-wallet adoption. And your second research objective will be to examine the relationship between perceived usefulness and touch and go e-wallet adoption. All right. So from the way that you look at the research questions, research objective, you can can somehow guess how the models looks like, right? I think I no need to go through in details, right? You all should be able to capture the gist of these research objective and research questions. Okay, moving on. Let me just highlight this. Okay, let's say you have these 7 IV, right? These are IVs. If let's say if you follow the old school, right? Normally, at least you need to have 7 research questions and research objective. But reading 7 research questions, then 7 research objective, it will be very lengthy, boring, right, for the examiner. So in fact, you can group the specific or related IVs. Like for instance, right, you can see that these are website related factor. So they group together, right? And then the second one, you group then the related IVs together. Then since this model have proposed this relative attractiveness as the moderator, right? So this is the moderating effect. You can group so that the numbers of research objective and research questions look nicer, and I would say relatively easy for the audience and also the examiner to go through, right? Just an example, if your supervisor suggests if you have 6 IVs or 7 IVs, if let's say your supervisor suggests to list out all one by one, then just go ahead. I believe a certain supervisor prefer you to follow that kind of a school of thought, just a different school of thought. I mean, there's no right or wrong. All right, this is just an example that you can group your research objective and also research question. If you group your research objective into 3 like this, then your examiner would expect 3 research questions as well, because normally your examiner prefer to match. All right, guys, so far so good for these research objective and research questions. And by the way, your moderator, right? Actually, this relative attractiveness is moderating all these 7 direct relationship to loyalty. It moderate all. So you should expect 7 interaction effect as well. Interaction effect. I just write INT lah. So you have 7 direct effect and 7 indirect effect, just for information. So that's why if you are modeling moderator in your model or your framework, then expect to recruit more samples, right? Okay, let me continue. This is another important component in your chapter 1, which is significance of study. So normally, let me just share with you. 1.3 is problem statement, right? Then 1.4 is the research questions. 1.5 is objective. I mean, 1.4, 1.5. I mean, some supervisor prefer the other way around, so you all can change. So no problem. Then 1.6 can be your scope of study, or you can start your 1.6. I mean, for you to state the significance of study. So for instance, this is 1.6. And so here, you need to highlight your theoretical significance and practical significance. So what is the purpose and what is the benefits of having this 1.6? It is for you to highlight, what is the benefits of this study, right? So theoretically, it adds values, your study adds value to the literature, to the knowledge, right? And practically, it adds value as in to your practitioner, to the marketers, to the policymaker, So mean, normally we add value lah, to both theoretical and also managerial or practical perspective. Okay, I believe these two component or these two part you can write in length, because normally you all can write a very good managerial and practical significance of your study, right? But for theoretical, you must be careful, yeah, as in how your study add value. Okay, for instance, if you just using this TAM, technology accepted model, right? PU and POU. It looks very simple, right? If that is the case, how are you going to write a lengthy story as in how you contribute theoretically? So that's why normally I would suggest you all to integrate two theories or two models, so that at least you can argue how your integration add value theoretically. Okay, get my point, yeah? Okay, so after your significance of study, right, you also need to have a sections. It can be 1.7 or maybe 1.8, depends on how you structure your write-up, right? Definition of key term. Definition of key term, if you refer to your seniors or your supervisors' template or samples, right? Then you understand that definition of key term is also an important component in your chapter 1, whereby we can't see your definitions based on the past literature. Yeah, meaning to say, you tell your audience how you define and how you operationalize the variables in your study. For instance, let's say your model is very simple. This is your DV, right? And you have 2 IVs. So I expect you to have at least three key definitions in your definition of key term. So you should let the audience know how do you define your touch and go e-wallet adoption, how do you define your perceived usefulness, and how you operationalize your perceived ease of use. So normally, you can, for this TAM model, right, normally you will quote Venkatesh, right? Venkatesh 2003, something like that. All right. So basically, that's all for your chapter 1. Any questions? So hopefully, with these introductions and also this chapter 1 related information, you can somehow start your chapter 1 writing. Any questions? If no, then we can quickly move on to chapter 2, which is what's supposed to discuss today. So far, so good, guys? And so let's continue with your chapter 2, Chapter 2, we focus on another tool, another tool. But of course, your chapter 2 is the most, I would say, comprehensive and also the most pages kind of chapter write up. But just for today, we're just focusing on two components, literature review and theoretical framework. Okay, and how you structure your chapter 2 is also pretty much depends on your context. So the best person to consult and the best thesis or chapter or proposal to refer to is always get from your supervisor. All right, so for today, this lesson 2, all the information are for you to write your chapter 2. Another way is good to share with you. The best view comes after the hardest climb. So work hard, this semester, so that you can produce a good piece of work, okay? And you can score with flying colors. Okay. So these are the topics and the learning outcomes for this lesson 2. Okay. Before we proceed further, let's take a look at this entire research process. I would say this can serve as the helicopter view at least you can see where are you at this point of time, right? So now we are talking about this, yeah, the red color box, yeah, the critical literature review. Okay, but let me just briefly introduce two terms. One is induction, right? As you can see from the slide here. The other one is deduction. Yeah, deduction is pretty much depends on how you work on. How you work on your research. Okay, both this induction and deduction are research philosophy, your argument. Okay, let me share with you briefly, because we are not going to write a lengthy research philosophy chapter. For a PhD thesis, they need to write, explain, as in how they see the worldview, those kind of related epistemology, right? I believe you all cover this in your 607. Okay, let me start with induction first. Yeah? Induction is not really my forte. Induction is related to qualitative because they start from something which is very specific. They start from observation, right? They see something happens, then they try to uncover through interview, probe questions. That is induction. So normally the keyword is they start from specific. Okay, whereas for this deduction or deductive, this is quantitative research philosophy. So we start from general to more specific. So for quantitative study, like what I normally do, like just now the example also that I provide, right? The perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use leading to the touch and go e-wallet adoption rate one. That is also a deduction process because I start with a model. Yeah, so I start from a more general, which is the model or the theory, then I narrow down into specific hypothesis. The hypothesis from just now's example will be perceived usefulness will positively affect touch and go e-wallet adoption. And my second hypothesis will be perceived ease of use will positively influence touch and go e-wallet adoption rate, something like that, right? So this is the difference between induction and deduction. All right, I don't think I want to cover in details. I believe next week, Dr. Rosalie will talk more about this research philosophy. Okay, but anyway, this slide is just give you an overview and to let you have a clearer picture so you can see what are the process flow like. Yeah? So after your problem, right? I also cannot see clearly. Yeah, the font is too small. Yeah, you identify your problem, then you go for your literature review, which is your chapter 2. Then this research design, yeah, is basically your chapter 3. Yeah, you can go through. You can go through this line. Yeah, actually, just now what I explained is basically presented in this slide. Yeah? The deductive or deduction. Yeah? This is quantitative. Quanti. Yeah? So you all start with theory or model. It can be you thought, it can be stakeholder theory, it can be TAM model, yeah, technology acceptance model. Then you develop your hypothesis, you collect data and you analyze data, then you conclude whether you want to reject or you accept hypothesis. So the key is basically you start from theory, which is general. You start from a more general perspective, then you start to go through the process, okay, and finally you reject or you accept hypothesis. Okay, on the other hand, let me share with you the next slide. The inductive approach, this is QA, QA, whereby you use the interview or focus group discussion for you to collect data. So normally you start with a more specific phenomena, right? You observe, you do some observation specific. You observe, then you analyze the pattern and do some thematic analysis. Then after you come to a level of saturations, then you formulate the relationship. Then you compare, see whether your observation, your finding, is it, in line with the theory out there or not. So this is inductive or induction approach. Okay, just for information, just for you to at least you understand what is the difference between inductive versus deductive. Okay, let me just ask you one question. Is it possible for, let's say, Yong Kang, for you to carry out a research which is a combination of 50% inductive and 50% deductive? Is it possible? If, let's say, your examiner asks you in the oral viva session saying that, are you from inductive approach or deductive? Then you say, I go for 50-50. Is it possible? The answer is no, not possible, Yong Kang. Either inductive or deductive. Clear cut. Thank you for your response. Okay, so I hope you understand why not possible. Right, I think again, this is for you to go through, like this one, deductive. Start with theory, So normally, from my perspective, for those that use quantitative, we start from theory so that we can, from the theory, we can identify what are the construct. Then we do some reverse engineering. Whereas for the inductive or qualitative researcher, normally they start with data. Data as in their observation, their observation. All right, and this is just for your information, for your proposal submission, right? I believe you understand, and please, convey this message to your supervisor as well, when you need to submit your proposal, and then please don't wait until the very last minute. Only you discuss with your supervisor, Don't make this mistake, You can always start meeting your supervisor. Often, frequently, and don't feel shy to knock their door. So this is just for an example. Introduction is your chapter 1, literature review chapter 2, and your research method, or some prefer to write methodology, is your chapter 2. This is just an, I would say, example of the so-called subsection, I would say subsection, but at least you understand what you need to prepare, what you need to prepare for your proposal submission by week 15. All right, covering these 3 chapters. By the way, quanti and quali also need to submit 3 chapters. Both quali and quanti. And our focus for the day, Jim, yours one confirm, quantitative lah. Okay, so I expect you to write a lot of equation, Okay, let's talk about this literature review today. I just highlighted 2 keywords, selections of available documents, blah, 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 right? I believe you all can read. And then I also highlighted this evaluation, okay? So meaning to say, the gist of literature review is for you to identify a lot of published and also unpublished lah. But the thing is, if you ask me, I don't favor those unpublished work. So it is best that you use Google Scholar for you to do some searching, and then only depends on the very well-established publisher that I shared last week, right? Like Elsevier, Emerald, Taylor Francis, right? Springer, right? So you download those related papers, you evaluate. Yeah, the next keyword will be evaluate. Evaluate as in you read and see whether is that paper suitable for your research or not. If let's say, the DV is the same, but they use a different approach, then you may not want to consider, because no point. For instance, if let's say your study is cross-sectional, right? But you downloaded a paper which is the same DV, but the author used longitudinal, then I believe the research method will be totally different from your context or from your proposal. So you may want to save your energy to read other more suitable and related paper. Okay, so you need to do your own evaluation. Okay, and of course you understand that chapter 2, literature review, is always the most challenging chapter throughout the three, comparing the three, because you need to read a lot. Then after reading, you need to summarize what is, author A's findings, how author B conducted the research, and see whether author C and author D, do they have the similar findings or they contradict with author Z, something like that. So that's why it is the most challenging and need a lot of hard work for your chapter 2. Okay, but on the other hand, we understand that it is also the most important chapter, in your proposal, because without a thorough and comprehensive literature review, you can't identify your problem, right? You can't problematize, right? So if that is the case, how are you going to justify saying that that issue is worth studying without thorough literature review? Yeah, so that's why do a good literature review in order for you to convince, or in order for you to easily convince your audience, your examiner, saying that that is the study that you need to do. Okay. And moving on, the need for a critical literature review, I believe you all can read, and I just highlighted one, will not be repeated. So meaning to say, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. If let's say the similar study has been conducted, then no point doing it again. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. So how can we conclude that it is a study that has been done? Only through comprehensive review of the previous study, then only we can know. So that's why it is very important for us to perform a comprehensive literature review in order for us to understand the current state of knowledge, that at this point of time, what we know and what we don't know. The what we don't know is for you to play your role to fill in the gap, right? Yeah, so that's why there is a need for a critical literature review. Right, by the way, why actually there is a difference between a conventional or a very simply literature review. Later, I believe when you go through the slide, then you can see the examples between critical and simply put literature review. Right, critical meaning to say you need to synthesize, you need to critique researcher A and not researcher B, those kind of writing. Normally your examiners or even your supervisor will comment that your literature is not critical enough. You are not synthesizing, right, from what you have read. These are the normal comment. But the thing is, those okay, I think I better stop here. Okay, in short, to sum up is you need to write a critical literature review. Okay. Moving on, let's talk about the content of a literature review. So this is what you need to write. Okay, the underpinning theory is always important. It is because, like what we have discussed since last week, right? Without a theory, right? How can we or you convince the audience, right? Okay, let me just give you an example. Okay, let's say you identify an issue, yeah, which is let's say low sales, right, of a product A. So your research is to carry out to find out what is the intentions to purchase product A. Yeah? Intentions to purchase product A. So you propose 2 IV. Yeah? Your 2 IV is basically your proposed solution. So in order for you to boost the sales, so you identify these 2 IV. And one is let's say perceived usefulness. Okay. I just simply give some example. It may not sound, it may not be a good example. Then the second one is sales. Actually, logically, perceived usefulness and sales or promotion can have a good relationship with intention to purchase, logically speaking. But the thing is, when your examiner look at this model, he or she can ask you to redo because these 3 variables did not wellly gel, meaning to say, we understand that perceived usefulness to intention, you can use TEM, right? And then sales, you can use marketing mix. But the thing is, it is okay for you to argue separately, but when you put these 3 together, I do not know and I cannot understand what is the integrative theoretical model from your study, right? So I give this example is to highlight and also to share with you the importance of having a good underpinning theoretical model or integrated model, in order for you to happily and easily convince the reader that you have a sound model, right? And with that, with a good underpinning theory, you can easily formulate your hypothesis, hypothesis statements that we are going to cover today, later today. Okay, and of course, literature is for you to identify the gap, which we already mentioned. Just now. When we talk about gap, I think I mentioned before, right? It is basically the underdeveloped or underexplored area, meaning to say less studied by others. Okay, one important observation to share with you all, if let's say the similar model has been tested in like US or those developed country, right? Don't take exactly the same model and say you want to test in Malaysia, due to the contextual gap. It is acceptable if you publish the paper in a low-tier journal, but for our 631's perspective, we don't encourage that. I believe before your submission to the examiner, right, your supervisor will ask you to go and do more reading so that you can propose a more favorable model, so that you can contribute to close the gap. All right. Okay, and these are the checklists that you can ask yourself whether have you performed a comprehensive and thorough literature review or not, because you can ask yourself, have you included all the up-to-date relevant literature? Have you covered the most relevant and significant study or theories in your area? I believe you can answer these questions after you read enough or read sufficient papers. Or if you really cannot understand or cannot know whether you have do your literature review comprehensively or not, you can cross-check with your supervisor. The other one should have give you a more comprehensive advice, I would say, because they are already the subject matter expert that are in the field for decades, right? But anyway, this is just a checklist that you can ask yourself whether you have performed a comprehensive literature review or not, right? Okay, the significance of literature, review in your study, or in short, the significance of reading a lot, right? It is important because literature review is everywhere, right? It's everywhere, as you can see from the slide here, right? throughout all your chapters, like this one, the first one. Justification for the problem is needed, right? In your chapter 1 and 2. And without literature review, you can't claim that statement from who and who state that, right? And then what is known and what is unknown, right? And then what is the best theory or conceptual framework that you can leverage or you can adapt or adopt, right? It's only through literature review, yeah. And then what is the best research design? What is the best method? Do you want to use survey or do you want to use focus group discussion or interview in order for you to collect data? Or how are you going to analyze your data? Is it through covariant-based structural equation modeling or using variant-based PRSM? Or if you prefer multiple regressions or OLS, ordinary least square, these are all the possible options. You only will get to know after going through the thorough and comprehensive literature review. Yeah. Of course, yeah, after you collect data, after you analyze your data, you also need to interpret the result. You need to write your discussion, right? How are you going to write your discussion without literature review? So it is not possible, right? So this slide already outlined the significance of literature review throughout your study stages and process. Yeah. Right, Ken, I think all the slides are self-explanatory. And what is the literature search strategy? I just let you know some very basic suggestion. Yeah, the search parameters or the search keywords. Yeah, subject. Yeah, you can go to Google Scholar, or if you can, some supervisor they prefer directly go to Scopus website. Yeah? Scopus by Elsevier, right? So you log in Scopus, then from the keyword search there, you just directly type your DV, for instance, or your focus of your study, right? Or if someone you know that he or she is well known, right? You can directly type their name. For instance, if you're doing some corporate social responsibility, right? You can type the specific author's name, yeah? Or if you're doing big data, right? Normally you would type Mikalev, something like that, right? If you are doing a stakeholder, then you would type a Freeman 1984, right? So you can directly type your supervisor's name also can, right? That is possible, yeah? And from there, you can just do your search, yeah? Okay, and this is searching using databases from USM library, right? You can use the off-campus login. Then you can go direct to EBSCO host. You can do that. But normally, I just share my experience. Normally, I would just depends on Google Scholar. Yeah, Google Scholar is always my best mate. Yeah, to do some searching. Yeah, but the thing is, you need to do proper filtering. Yeah, because a Google Scholar will give you a very comprehensive output. So you need to filter what is a good paper for you to refer and some not so good paper that you can ignore, right? And then this is the one that I mentioned just now, yeah, Scopus. You can directly type Scopus, yeah, and then you do your keyword search, yeah, this one. And this is Google Scholar, yeah, search engine, yeah, is a very good search engine, yeah. And you can do your filtering, right? Because I think your supervisor also prefer the latest 5 years, right? But it also depends on your context. And then this is just to showcase saying that, I mean, you can read the abstract first, see whether is it suitable for your research context. Like just now, right? I did mention most of the time we don't do longitudinal. Yeah? So we just use cross-sectional. So if the paper is about longitudinal, then you may not want to download. Yeah? No need, because no point. right? But you can't download the paper. You read the paper for you to understand the concept. You can do that, and you can cite the paper in the introduction. You can do that. Huh? Okay, this is the literature review process, or you can call it like searching strategy from here, right? Actually, what I would like to highlight is, I mean, our model is always complex, right? If you recall, right, last week we also shared with you model with moderator, mediator, right? A lot of variables. So, I mean, we need to, do a proper searching, yeah? So this slide is basically highlighting the importance of searching, yeah? If let's say your initial search didn't give you a good output, then you need to refine, and further refine. For instance, you can, or maybe I just directly give an example. Let's say your study is about related to sustainability performance of the firm. Then you just type sustainable performance. I believe you will get too many output, too many papers. I don't think you can finish reading all the papers. So you may want to narrow down the search, as in your sustainability performance. Is it related to, let's say, climate action? I mean, I just give you an example. You have to be more specific. So you can, from broad, right? You can narrow down so that you can, like let's say, if you search sustainability performance, you get 300. If you narrow down to your specific climate action, you narrow down, right? So the output, the search is, let's say, 70. So from 300, right, you just need to read 70 papers. Okay. On the other hand, if let's say you are searching some specific keywords like e-learning at USM, right? Or maybe coffee lover at USM or in USM, right? So this is too specific. You may want to expand to be more general, right? For instance, some specific technology, right? Just now I mentioned about e-learning. It's too specific, for instance. I just give an example. So you maybe want to make it more general, as in learning technology, right? So you can have more papers for you to read so that you don't go to your supervisor and say, I cannot find papers. Yeah? So it is all about how you strategize your searching keywords, your keyword searching. Yeah. So it can be from broad, you narrow down, or from too narrow keywords, you broaden, yeah, your keyword search. So what the message from this slide is basically asking you to keep on refining your keyword search so that in order you can have a more critical search at the end of the day. Yeah? Right. So keep on searching. Yeah? Actually, it is advisable even a day before your oral viva. Yeah? You can do the Google search. Yeah, although we understand that you cannot amend your write-up already, but at least who knows, when the examiner pick up and ask you some questions, right? You know how to answer. You can say that, I mean, it is too late for me to include that paper, but I take note that the paper just published just published online, so you can incorporate that when you do your corrections. Yeah. So this is how normally you answer your examiner. Okay, and today's lesson, right, is about literature review, right? From our earlier discussion, I think I highlighted identification and documentation, right? From the earlier slide when we defined the literature review. So after reading, okay, not reading, after download so many papers, right? Like let's say you downloaded 70 papers, yeah? It is important for you to do your proper documentation, right? So you can use this method. This is just one of the many methods available out there. Yeah, this is using the thematic approach. Yeah? You don't need to buy any specific file or whatsoever, right? Just using your Excel, right? You can just team 1, right? It can be your DV, right? Team 2, it can be your IV number 1, right? Team 3 can be your IV number 2, and it can be your IV number 3. Let's say if you have 3 IVs and 1 DV, right? And these are all the papers, the author's name. And from there, you can actually have a good and holistic view, and you can even easily help you to identify the gap. Let's say, yeah, these variables is not so popular, right? Less, studied by the authors, right? So you can claim that, yeah, you are filling in the gap because less author work on that specific path relationship. Yeah. So this is one of the many ways that you can document your papers that you downloaded. Yeah. There are many ways. This is just a suggestions using Excel. Yeah. And actually you can further improvise to make it more comprehensive. If you want to incorporate apart from the variables, right? Maybe the years, yeah, the publication year, and what are the findings? Is it a positive or negative, right? So that this Excel can help you when you write your discussion, yeah. Because when after you collect your data, right, it is already in your second semester. Maybe you already forgot what you have read, so you can refer to this Excel. Yeah, and you can easily write your discussion, see how many papers or how many authors supported your positive finding and how many negative or how many insignificant results by certain authors from the past study that support your negative or support your insignificant result. Right, so this is one of the very good method in order for you to make your research life more efficient, yeah, and effective. Okay, but I'm not saying that this is the method that you need to follow. Yeah, I'm just giving you an option, one of the many way out there. I believe if let's say your supervisor suggests the method that he or she prefer, then just follow. Yeah, just follow. Yeah. All right, and the next few slides are basically giving you the literature review write-up examples, like this one. Yeah, asking you to avoid. Because at the first glance, right, no citation at all, right? So if I'm the examiner, the first things that come into my mind will be, I will suspect, is this written by AI? Yeah, this will be my first suspect. And you can see that got hyperlink, right? So clear cut, this is a copy and paste work. Try, don't do this, because I believe your examiner is going to deduct marks. This is also not a good idea that, yeah, you write like this, because 2 paragraph, same reference paper, and it is dated, outdated. Giving not so positive impressions to your examiners. One is you don't update. Maybe you just copy from seniors, because this is 2009, yeah, and this is very descriptive. Examiners don't like this kind of literature review. They like how you integrate, how you do a lot of reading, and how you synthesize the findings. Yeah, blend everything within the 2 or 3 paragraph. They like that kind of writing. Yeah, and some of the examiner may even comment that they cannot hear your voice from the way how you write. Something like that. Okay. Okay. This is a good example, yeah, because you can see that lots of citations. It showcases that the researcher or the authors really read a lot, yeah. And but the thing is that sometimes, too good to be true, yeah. I wonder also, yeah, Did the candidate really read so many papers? And not sure whether he or she can download this seminar paper or not, 1977, 1996, I'm not sure. If I suspect, then I will ask whether do you really read the paper or not? Yeah. So sometimes try to be careful when you cite or when you refer to certain papers. Yeah. Don't simply cite any papers that you don't read. So that's why, Si Yong, I'm not sure whether can you, retrieve that paper or not. Yeah. But certain seminar papers like Argent 1991, you must have, and I believe it is available online. And if you are using stakeholder theory, and I expect you to write and to cite Freeman 1984 because it is available, 1984 Freeman, that is the seminar paper that you cannot miss. Like this one, Argent 1991. If you are using theory plan behavior, if you miss Argent 1991, then the examiner will comment that your literature review is not comprehensive. I give you another more recent examples, like if you are doing big data, Mikalev, if you miss Mikalev, then your literature review is not comprehensive. And if you are using institutional theory, then I expect DiMaggio and Powell, right? That is 1983. Yeah. So you still need those seminal paper. Seminal paper meaning to say those paper that first coin that kind of a theory. Yeah. You need to have that. Yeah, the original paper that start that concept, right? Hopefully my message is clear. Yeah? So it is important for you to have a good blend. Yeah. And also depends on where you are citing the paper. For your chapter 1, you cite all the recent publication. You don't cite 1990s in your chapter 1. I don't encourage that. Yeah. But in your chapter 2, when you write your literature review, it is important for you to cite those important seminal paper like Argent 1991, Freeman 1984. All right. Yeah. Hopefully my message is clear. Si Yong and all. Okay, the rest I believe you all can take a look. The good and the bad example. Yeah, but I have to make it clear that I personally am not good in writing literature review. So although many times I will advise you all to write a good and criticize others, then write a good synthesis, right? But the thing is, I myself, because I don't read that many, so I cannot write that comprehensive kind of a critical literature review. Only through reading, the more papers that you read, right, then you only can compare, right? Compare, and then you can contradict A and B and see whether how many people are going towards that convergent directions and how many is diverge from the original argument, something like that. Let me move on. I think the rest you all can take a look. The examples. Okay. Okay, talking about citations, citation and also the so-called references are very important because researchers need to be honest, and also for you to ensure that you are maintaining the highest level of academic integrity, right? And of course, for those audience and future researcher to refer back to the original paper, right? Especially talking about how you derive or how you adapt or how you adopt your measurements, right? Because normally for my case, as an examiner, I will put a lot of effort going back to the original sources. I will check your references, So it may not be a good examiner for your case if you see me in the oral viva session. Yeah, but anyway, let's come back to that. This is to avoid plagiarism. Yeah, this is to avoid plagiarism. And okay, talking about citation and plagiarism, yeah, I think last week we already spent quite some time focusing on this, right? The maximum similarity index that you can have is 24%. Yeah? Let me type in the chat box again, yeah? As an evidence that this message already being mentioned many times. 24% maximum, right? And you only have 3 attempts for the similarity check. Okay, so this slide highlight that this is how you, examples, how you write your, citation, right? Okay, then let me just move on. Yeah, APA style, APA style. Yeah, APA in-text citation. Yeah, in-text citation is referring to those citations in your main text, meaning to say inside your chapter 1 to 3, right? And after you complete your 3 chapters, then you will have a separate section called references, right? Yeah. Then in that specific references section, you list all the references using APA, yeah, APA's style citation. Yeah? And this is the in-text. In-text meaning to say inside the right. We have 2 parenthetical citations and narrative citation. Narrative citation is like within the sentence, right? Like Smith 2020 states that blah 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 blah, right? Parenthetical is the way how you close when you finish the sentence, right? Like you mentioned that 2 recent studies has been conducted in a similar area. Then you open and close bracket, Smith 2020 and full stop. This is parenthetical citation. Yeah. All right, and this is the APA. I think not sure whether do they have 8 version or not, but latest I think should be 7. Not very sure because I didn't check. Yeah. So at least APA, yeah, we follow APA. But of course, when you read those journal articles, right, different publisher they have a different citation style. Yeah, different referencing style. Like Emerald, I think they are not using. Yeah, confirm. Confirm Emerald, they are not using APA. Emerald, I think Chicago, right? I can't really remember. Yeah, but confirm Emerald is not using APA. But for GSB submission, please use APA. Yeah? APA referencing style. And just to highlight, yeah, if you are using I think there is Microsoft Word, you can use this referencing like add-on, right? But the thing is, please use with care because some of the referencing style, although you choose APA, it may not give you the proper and right APA, right? So you need to manually amend. Just for information, yeah, because normally I don't depends on, personally, I don't use mentally. I don't use EndNote, my referencing style or my referencing, or I am doing it manually. Just for information. Yeah. All right, so far so good, guys. Any questions before we move on to the next? All right, should be all good, huh? Should be all good because I believe you all suppose already finished reading the slides, right? Yeah. Okay, so after our critical literature review, right, we can develop our framework. Okay. Then after you develop your framework, you can pen down your hypothesis statement. You can develop your hypothesis. So this is just an example of a framework that you see, the same framework since last week, right? Yeah, just an example we discussed before. Yeah, I think last week I also asked questions that can we do the reverse arrow or not? Yeah, I already explained. Yeah, so I'm not going to explain today. For those who missed the session, right, you can listen to the recording. Okay, why cannot? Huh? Or if you want to justify, then yeah, depends on whether do you have sufficient theory or not. Let me just quickly, again, just try my luck to ask you a question again. You can see that I'm labeling 3 hypotheses, right? So again, let me just ask, is this a mediator? Oh my God, huh? Siyong, huh? No. Yeah, Amil, yeah? No. If I only have 3 hypotheses, that is not a mediator. If you want to treat creative synergy as a mediator, then you need to have H4. Huh? I will show you an example of a mediation hypothesis later. Yeah? Later. Okay. Okay. So okay, this one, and this is managerial expertise. This is clear-cut moderation hypothesis. Right. So this is just an example of a framework. And I also would like to highlight the importance of theory. Yeah? Every framework needs to be underpinned by theory because theory is the one that explains why this variable A is having a positive relationship with variable B. Yeah, not by you and not by me, but by the theory. Yeah, theory is the one that gel all the relationship. Yeah, yeah. Okay, guys. This is your DV. Yeah, so this is the variables that you need to explain and articulate well in your chapter 1.3, yeah, hypothesis statement. Yeah, no, sorry, your problem statement. Yeah, your DV in your problem statement. Yeah, 1.3, right? And these are all your proposed solution. Yeah, these are all your proposed solution. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Next slide give you the idea, and actually basically is a defining. Yeah, what do we mean by theoretical framework? Yeah, theoretical framework. Yeah, I highlighted the importance of theory. Yeah, and from the theoretical framework, actually, we can see the relationship among the variables. So in short, yeah, a framework is basically a graphical representation. Okay, so for many of you, right, you will have framework, but for Jim, I'm not sure whether is he going to have a framework or not. But no worries, because if he don't have a framework, he will definitely write a lot of equation. Equation is equivalent to a framework. So from the equations, we can somehow transform or translate it in a framework. So it depends, depends on how he want to design and structure his write-up. Yeah? So in short, framework is something that we can see, a graphical representations of all the complex idea, something like that. Because you are going to gel all the relationship, right? Arrow here from A to B here and there, right? All the arrows. Okay, moving on. Moving on. This slide highlight the importance of a theory again. Okay, and what I would like to draw your attention is basically just to highlight the difference between conceptual framework and theoretical framework, because some supervisors, they are very particular. Yeah, but for me, I can use these two terms, theoretical framework and conceptual framework, interchangeably. Yeah, but some supervisor or some examiner, they don't like to mix up, right? From their perspective, if your variables is attitude, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control leading towards intention to purchase, right? This is a theoretical framework because follow exactly theory plan behavior. If you follow the theory directly without changes, it is a theoretical framework. Okay, if you have additional or you integrate then it becomes conceptual framework because it has yet to be tested. So it is just your conceptualizations of the relationship. So that's why they call it a conceptual framework that you constructed, right? You put together maybe from two theory, two model, right, to become yours. So it is a conceptual framework, right? I think details you all can read, yeah. I mean, if you have any questions, you can ask, yeah. Else, I assume all good, huh? The thing for 631 is it is very comprehensive, a lot of things to cover, and I do not know what you don't know. So if you don't know anything, please let me know so that I can try my level best to explain. Let's move on to talk about variables. I believe I don't need to spend time on this, right? Because I believe you understand what is a mediator, what is a moderator, what is IV, what is DV, right? Yeah, but the thing is, can I ask again? What do you understand when we label that variable as a mediator? Can anyone explain? Or actually no need lah. Just want to ensure you can differentiate mediator and moderator because from the past experience, right? Some supervisor and some examiner told me that they asked me whether did I really do a good job because they noticed that some of their students cannot differentiate mediator moderator. Yeah? So that's why you can see that I asked this many times. Don't confuse yourself. They are different. They are different. Okay. But anyway, these are basically the factors. Yeah, the factors, the measurable factors in your model. Yeah, in your model because they can represent. From the number, right? You normally use the Likert scale to measure, like 1 to 5. 5 represent very likely, right? Then 1 is less likely, something like that. Or 5 can be very agree, yeah. Then 1 is very disagree, yeah? Something like that. How it depends on how you design your Likert scale, yeah. Then I think the rest you can read lah, yeah. You can read what do we mean by variables. Okay, so this slide differentiate constructs and variables. Actually, this is kind of a similar like what we discussed last week, which is like latent and measurable, right? Latent is unobservable. Yeah, latent is unobservable. Then measurable is what we can see, yeah, observable, yeah. So here you can see that reward is basically the construct, right? But you can further break it into monetary and non-monetary, whereby you can call them as these as variables, yeah, in order for them to be measurable. Yeah? But for me, from my perspective, normally I use the construct and variables interchangeably. Yeah? Normally, yeah. Okay. With that, now let us move on to the last part of today's lesson 2, yeah, which is hypothesis. Hypotheses are basically like I highlighted, right? This is testable statements. This is the statements that we are going to test, right? Okay, once we identify or once we finalize our model, then we can state our hypothesis. But of course, yeah, before we state our hypothesis statement, we need to argue. Yeah, we need to argue why these variables will positively lead to B. Yeah. Later, I will share screen to show you an example how we argue and how we write the hypothesis statements. Right. So in short, yeah, your hypothesis statement need to be testable. Yeah, meaning to say must be measurable. Yeah, must be measurable. And how we measure? Yeah, is basically through the indicators or the items that we are going to discuss in length, maybe in week 5. Not today. Today is just to briefly introduce a model, yeah, for your research, whereby the model need to be underpinned by theory, right? And there are lots of theory out there. It can be individual level theory, yeah, and it can be organizational level theory. Yeah, don't mix up, right? And we are going to talk about this maybe in details in your chapter 3, yeah, maybe week 5 or week 6. But for today, it's just let you know, yeah. I mean, what is hypothesis? And actually, there are quite a numbers of different types of hypotheses, yeah? Like this one. Yeah? If then, this is a kind, yeah? Or a non-directional hypothesis, yeah, or maybe during your undergrads, right, you write a lot of a null hypothesis, meaning to say there's no relationship between A and B. There is null hypothesis, yeah, that we don't prefer nowadays, yeah. Nowadays, I recommend you all to just focus on one, which is directional hypothesis. Because at the end of the day, right, after we collect data, we are going to perform the statistical analysis and we accept or we reject by looking at the p-value, right? So if let's say p less than 0.05, then we accept, right? So that's why it is best that we couple the result, yeah, the findings with the directional hypothesis, like this one, yeah. The greater the stress experience, right, the lower. So this is a negative. This is a negative hypothesis. Let me move on to the next slide, see whether do I have any examples of positive. Positive one is basically like this one. Big data analytic capability has a positive effect on innovation quality. This is a positive hypothesis. So guys, if let's say your beta value is negative, let's say your beta value after your analysis is negative 0.35 and it is significant, but your hypothesis is positive, do not claim that your hypothesis is supported because of this, your negative value. So guys, please pay attention to this as well. Many of your seniors, they face this mistake. All right, directional hypothesis strongly recommend. So meaning to say you must have either negative or positive word in your hypothesis. Okay, so those are the direct hypothesis, direct relationship. Let's say this one. These are all the direct relationship. Then the next slide, this is indirect effect. Indirect effect, in this case, mediation is like this. This is H1, right? H2. If mediation, this is H3. This is mediation. So this is the examples of the hypothesis for mediation. And this is the hypothesis statement for moderator. Moderator, normally, we also write in direction as in strengthening or weakening the relationship. Okay, guys, I think that's all for this. Let me just quickly share screen to share with you how the hypothesis statements and how the argument look like. Give me a minute. Let me find my papers. Just a minute. Just a minute. Because I don't know where I keep the papers. Just a minute. It's IJ. Okay. Let me find the paper first. Okay, managed to find already. Let me share screen. Okay, before that, can I confirm that you all can see my screen? Thank you. Okay. Okay, so this is just an example of an article that you all need to submit next semester. This is not the summation requirement for this semester. This is next semester, but I just want to show you how I formulate the hypothesis. And this is hypothesis. You can see that, yeah? This is how I write and craft the hypothesis statement. Like green HRM is positively related. Yeah? If you don't like the word related, you can use the word influence, right? So now I write positively related to performance attribution. Yeah. So this is a directional hypothesis. And you can see that before I come to conclude this statement, right? This is my argument. Yeah. You also need to write like this, huh? But you write even longer in your chapter 2. Yeah. Yeah, to convince your audience, convince your examiner, saying that green HRM has a positive relationship on HRM performance attribution. Okay, so this is one. And the second hypothesis talks about the LMX, right, and HRM performance attributions. So blah, 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 right, and positive. And this is directional hypothesis. Okay, by the way, these are all the direct, direct meaning to say without mediation and without moderation. Let me just show you an example of a mediation. Yeah, H6, and this is a mediation hypothesis. Mediation also need to put direction. So normally I write like this. Mediates the positive relationship between A and B. Yeah, this is the mediation hypothesis. Okay, so this is the indirect hypothesis. And let me share with you another paper whereby you can see moderation. My moderator are basically is a negative construct. Performance risk, social risk, these are moderator, right? So you can see that I use the word weaker, or you can use weaken, weaken the relationship. So this is also a directional indirect hypothesis, but this is for moderator. So this is the first moderator. My second moderator also talks about risk, right? Social risk. So also weaken the relationship between A and B when there's high social risk. So this is how I pen down, or how I craft my moderation hypothesis in a directional manner. All right, this is just two examples that you all can refer. But I believe just now, right, when I share with you all the examples, I believe the examples are already there, right? Yeah, the negative, you all can see my slide, right? Now I'm sharing screen, but I'm using the slides. The negative relationship between burnout and job satisfaction will be stronger for female, right, compared to male. Yeah, this is treating gender, gender as the moderator. Yeah? And then the second example is facilitating condition. And this is using the UDAUT model, UDAUT, between the intention and actual use through the higher facilitating condition. All right, so these are the examples of indirect mediation and moderation. And the earlier one, directional hypothesis. This is just a direct relationship testing between two variables A and B. All right, guys, any questions? So far, so good. Yeah. Today I covered just now, starting with the chapter 1's problem statement, right? This one. After problem statement is research objective and research questions. Then your significance of study, right? Significance of study is this one. Then after that, I covered your lesson 2, chapter 2, starting from your literature review, right? But it's a bit boring. It's a very descriptive kind of explanation. Then talking about how you come up with a model, right? Your framework. So all the relationship must be underpinned by theory. Without theory, your model is not convinced, right? So you cannot have like 2 IV by mixing perceived usefulness and like let's say promotion or sales to intentions to purchase, like the example just now, right? That is a very weak theoretical argument. Then after that, we talks about how you, from your model, you can formulate or craft your hypothesis statements. Guys, any questions? So far, so good. So these are all the materials that you need in order for you to write your chapter 2, right? And apart from those things that I shared just now, through this today's lesson, I also incorporate some additional reading materials. Please take a look. I think it is helpful in order for you to have a better understanding, right? Guys, any questions? Can I stop sharing my screen? Let's go back to WebEx just in case anyone want to ask questions. You can use your mic, your microphone, or you can type in the chat box. 33 of you at this point of time. Supposedly should be more than that, No questions. No questions. It is either I didn't explain well, or you don't understand, or you all understand fully from the positive perspective. Guys, any questions? Got see you. Draft proposal, same as the research proposal. Oh, I believe Siung, you're asking the 3 to 4 pages, the one, the brief proposal, right? If let's say, if that is your first draft, if you want to change, can, no problem at all. If let's say there is a major change, just let me know lah. Because when or after you submit your brief proposal, right, I will somehow deposit your title, right? So if there is a major changes, then please let me know. At least I can make some amendment, right? So 3 to 4 pages, you can change, You can change, And even after you submitted your full proposal, right? If let's say there are some comment from your examiner saying that this is not doable, not workable, then you also can amend, You can amend after you discuss with your supervisor, after all your discussion with your supervisor, then only you finalize your model, then only you go for your data collection. You can change. Your final will be the one that you submit next semester. The final article. So amendment is allowed throughout the semesters. Right? Any other questions? You all can ask any general question as well. No questions? Oh, good, Okay, so if that is the case, do you all want to end it? Okay, got a question from Mr. Lin. When you submit ADK02 form, right? You submit together with the your 3 to 4 pages brief proposal, right? So submit together. You email to Puan Safarina. And that is to answer Mr. Lin. So week 4, submit ADK02 form referring to the important dates notice. Together with the brief 3 to 4 pages proposal. But don't worry if you cannot. Just submit 1 to 2. But it is a must. your ADK02 form with your supervisor's signature together with the brief proposal. Okay, then Suguna, yeah, of course, you need to start discuss the topic with your supervisor. Yeah, supposedly it is best that you start last week, right? Even I believe some of your friends start even the semester starts. Yeah, if you have yet to start, quickly. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, any questions? Any questions? Because I think I mentioned this before. We only have a very limited meetings. Oh, by the way, I don't see you all next week. Week 3 and week 4, Dr. Rosalie will take over. Dr. Rosalie will share his WebEx links, and then please join him for week 3 and week 4. Then I will see you all again for those who opt for quantitative approach in week 5, week 6, and week 7. Yeah. So after that, no more meetings. Right. So treasure the moment. If you have anything, we can always clarify. Yeah. But if let's say no questions, then we can always end the session earlier, right? No, Ming Ming, if you go for quantitative, I still think that it is important for you to join week 3 and week 4. Because week 3 and week 4, I believe, referring to our course guide, right? Dr. Rosalie will talks about research philosophy and how to carry out ethical research, something like that. Yeah, so it is good. Yeah? And in fact, please ask Dr. Rosalie more questions regarding qualitative. Yeah, to brush up your qualitative skill, right? Because I believe you all want to be all-rounded person. Yeah, right. It is good to have both quali and quanti skill, right? Yeah, so that you can write your case study as well. Yeah, case study. Case study is pretty much falls on quali. Quali. So please join Dr. Rosalie next week, week 3 and week 4. Then week 5, week 6, and week 7, we split class. Yeah. Because week 5, week 6, and week 7, we need to focus on your quanti and quali research design. All right. Any other questions from anyone? Darren, I think your name didn't appear in CLA, right? Already registered? I'm just wondering. Okay, any other questions from anyone? Yong Kang, Si Yong, Wei Kang, Sugita, Suguna, Shahil, Shireen. Last week you asked questions, but this week you're all good, huh?
Yeah, so far all good. I'm still preparing the question.
Okay. If no questions from any, no question, I don't see. Can't think of any as of now. Yeah, I mean, you all can text. If you all think that the questions will be benefits others, then just type in the group, yeah, so that everyone can see. Okay. Okay. So if that is the case, I think we can end the sessions here. If no other questions, but if anyone, do you all want me to stay until 9? So that just in case anyone suddenly have any questions, should be fine, because I still see you all in week 5, week 6, and week 7. Yeah. So I will end the session here. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you again in week 5. Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.